Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, you're welcome. My name is Juliet. In today's video, I am going to be showing you how to make this cute vintage shirt for a 1-year-old baby boy. So first, my fabric here is on fold, and then it's on fold again the second time. So I folded it by 2, and then I folded it again using 3.5 inches. Although if I'm to do this again, I will fold the extension by 5.5 inches. So the measurement I used is 8 inches plus another 3.5 inches. For the length measurement, I added extra 3 inches to the back piece. So up here now, I am slanting the shoulder by 1 inch. I placed them equally at the top, and then I marked 1 inch on the side, and I slanted all the way to the middle like so. That extension on the front is folded in completely. So like I said, after slanting, I have 3 inches extra for the back piece. After slanting, I put it back to the lower part like so. Now they're equal on the lower part, and then I made a half-inch mark on the front piece. I'm going to fold over the back piece to sit on that half-inch mark like so. So next now, I'm sorry, NEPA took the light at this point and I could not wait. Ideally, I should iron that in place and it will stay, but because I couldn't iron, it kept moving. I apologize for that. So here now, I am marking the shoulder measurement. I marked 5 inches. Shoulder divided by 2 is 4.5. I added extra half-inch, making it 5. So I came down a bit and I am marking the same 5 inches down. For the armhole, I think I marked 4 inches here, but I adjusted that to 5 later. So for the armhole, like I said, 5 inches deep, and then I was checking here to see if 4 inches, 4.5 would work. But I went ahead to adjust it still. So I used 5 inches at the end of the day for the depth of the armhole. Now from this side, I am making sure that I have a straight line by ensuring I have my 5 inches shoulder both at the top and at the lower part. On the armhole side now, I am going to get the middle, make a mark, and then I will come in by half-inch or quarter, and then connect back to the shoulder, and then I will curve the rest of the armhole. But before doing that, I marked the chest measurements I am working with, which is 6. I added extra 1 inch for ease, which is 7. So I marked 7, and then I marked another 1 inch for the sewing allowance. Next, I went ahead to now curve the armhole to that 7-inch point. So I will leave all the measurements I used in the description box below, so do check it out. So on the lower part, as I went ahead to mark the same 7-inch width, and then another 1 inch for sewing allowance, and then I connected in a straight line like so. Next, now we are going to cut out the neck. So for the depth, no, for the width, I marked 2 inches. So I marked 2 inches in like so. I came down a bit and I marked the same 2 inches. And then from the top now, I marked 2.5 inches. Now the neck width, the neck round measurement we are working with is 11 inches. And half of 11 inches is 5.5. So we're going to make a curve around this neckline like so. And then using my tape now, I will measure around to be sure that I have exactly 5.5 inches. Now I will measure and measure again to be sure. And if I have less or more than 5.5 inches, I will adjust my curve until I can get exactly 5.5 inch. That is why I am measuring over and over again, as you can see. In the meantime, if you are yet to subscribe to my YouTube channel, please click on the subscribe button below and also the notification bell. Well, I think it's automatic these days, Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and also like this video if you are learning from it. I went ahead to cut out the armhole and the sides, and next now we're cutting the neckline. I'm cutting on the back piece only. So how I opened it up first before cutting, and then all the way to the front like so. See, so this is it for the first step of cutting this inches shirt. This is the 3.5 inches that I folded in. I'm opening up the front piece into two like so. Like I said in the beginning, I will use 5.5 if I am doing this next time, because I had to struggle at some point with this 3.5 inches. So next I am cutting the yoke for the back piece. I place this fabric on fold and making sure that the folded end of the back is matching the folded end of this piece. I am going to trace out the neckline like so, and then the shoulder side and the armhole. I make sure that the yoke is stopping somewhere after the mid point of the armhole. So this is it for the yoke. I am going to go now place the wrong side of the yoke on the right side of the back piece and then fold it in like so. I will go sew it all the way across. So you can also add lightweight interfacing on this yoke before doing this if you want. So after sewing the yoke in place, the next thing now is to join the front and the back pieces together on the shoulder. So place them right sides together and then turn the yoke part like so. I don't know how to explain this, but I'm sure you can see what I am doing. At this point, this fabric was confusing me seriously, so I had to take it back, put it back together and mark the wrong side so that I'm sure of what I'm doing. So again, one more time, place the yoke part and the front piece together on the shoulder and then turn the back piece like so, and then so but at the end of the day it's going to be clean both on the inside and outside part of this. So after joining them on the shoulder, this is what we have so far. This is what the shirt is looking like. So for the extension, I went ahead to iron ST on it. So I ironed ST of about 5 inches or so. Like the ST is more than that 3.5 inches we added to the extension. After ironing the ST, I folded it back again, but instead of folding in 3.5 inches like I did before, I now folded only 3 inches. So there's ½ inch extra on the front that is going to serve as the button allowance later on. So if I'm using 5 inches, like I said, which I advise you do the same, you'll be folding in 5 inch now instead of 5.5. You can also finish the raw edge of that fold either by overlocking or hemming it like I did here. Next, I went ahead to mark 1 inch top to bottom on the other side, and we're going to go join them together, front and back pieces, using that 1 inch. After that, I went ahead to iron so that it lays smooth. After ironing, it's time to cut out the sleeves. So we're going to set this aside for now. Oh wait, before setting it aside, we're going to measure around this armhole, and then we'll use that measurement to cut out the sleeve. So I got about 6.5 from measuring around the armhole like so. And then I have my fabric here that I'm going to use for the sleeves. I folded it into two and then I folded again into two. We're going to be cutting the two sleeves with this fold. So I marked 2 inches in and then I marked 3 inches down from the open side. And then I went ahead to mark the length of the sleeve, which is 5.5 inches. and then I used my curve now to curve the sleeve. I made the curve in this fashion first, and then I smoothen it out like so. You can also use your hand to do this. It doesn't have to, it mustn't be a curved ruler. You must not use a curved ruler to do this. So after drawing out the curve, I went ahead to measure around until I got to that 6 inches, and then I made a mark. And then on the sleeve length line, I marked 5 inches, which is half of the sleeve round measurement, and then I added extra 1 inch for sewing allowance. Next, before cutting, I will fold in the extra allowance for the sleeve. I left extra 2 inches. I'll fold it in, making sure that I have 5.5 after this fold, and then I will go ahead and cut. So after cutting, we have two sleeve pieces right now. The next thing I'm going to do is go hem the sleeve on the lower part. So I'll fold over the 2 inches allowance I left. I fold it again. I fold another half inch in to hide the raw edge completely. And then we're going to sew on that line, but I will still use this piece to fold the second piece. This will make sure that they are all equal. Just like before, I am folding in the raw edges again. I will just go sew it, and then I will join the sleeves together using that 1 inch we added as allowance. After sewing the sleeves, I went ahead to iron them flat, and then now it's time to attach it to the shirt. They're so tiny, God. So I matched the side seam of the sleeve to the side seam of the shirt, and then I will mark the midpoint of the sleeve to the shoulder point. Remember, the shoulder point for this is not where the seam is, based on how we folded it when cutting. So take note of that. After which I will go sew it, making sure that I fold the seam allowances away, both on the sleeve and also on the shirt part. I will do the same thing for the second sleeve, and this is what we have. I will also give this a good press so that it aligns properly. And then the next thing, I folded that extension right sides together like so. I'm going to go sew in 1 inch. So I measured 1 inch first, and then I made a notch. So we're going to go sew 1 inch across like so, and then do the same on this side. Fold it over this way, and then sew in up to 1 inch, backstitch and stop. After that, trim off a bit of the allowance to that 1 inch and cut it off, and then turn it back into the right side. Just use a sharp object to push that out properly. This is what we have. At this point, this extension is already looking small, which is why I said if I was to do this again, I will add extra 5.5 inches instead of 3.5. And I advise you do the same. So this is it. By the way, I went later on, I extended that part. I added a piece of fabric back to that place so that it is more than that small piece you're seeing there. So after which, the next thing to do is to add hemming gum to that part so that it stays in place. I think this is actually optional. You can do without adding it and it will still be fine. But I did add hemming gum to that part so that it stays in place. The next thing we're going to do now is to cut out the collar. So I'm going to start from that 1 inch point and then measure around the neckline to get the exact measurement I will be needing for the collar. Now for this measurement, it's important that you measure this thing up to 3 times, 4 times until you're able to get the same measurement twice back to back. That's when you know you have the right thing. If not, you will think you got it right until you start sewing and discover that your collar is either too big or too small. So after measuring that, I went ahead now to fold my fabric into four. I also ironed medium gum stay on it. I folded it into four and then I went ahead to rule a starting line like so, and then I marked the height of my collar. I divided the measurement I got from measuring around the neckline into two, and that is what I used to cut out to mark this collar. I added extra ½ inch to the measurement for allowance, and then for the height of the collar I used 4 inches. This 4 inches includes the ½ inch I will sew at the top and the ½ inch I will use to join to the neckline of the shirt. But all in all, I used 4 inches here as for the height. Now on this open side, I came up by 1 inch and then I slanted back to the folded end like so. Next, we are going to go ahead and cut. And because I folded this piece into four, we are going to have two collar pieces from this one fold, from this one cut. This is it, the two pieces all together. Next we are going to go sew ½ inch on the side, ½ inch at the top, and then ½ inch on the other end, after which we'll go ahead and notch and also trim off some of the excess. Trim as much as possible so that there is no bulk on the inside. After that, you turn it to the right side, use a sharp object like a scissors to push out the corners very well so that everything is nice and smooth. After that, the next thing we're going to do is iron this very smoothly. So I went ahead to trim that part a little more so that it is very flat. After ironing this collar piece, the next thing we're going to do is attach it to the shirt, starting from that 1 inch part. What we're going to do is fold in the edges of the collar so that the shirt, the neckline is in between these two collar pieces. So whatever logic you have or you want to use, just make sure that the raw edges of the collar are folded in and the shirt neckline is in between. I don't know how to explain that, but I'm sure you get the logic. So after joining the collar to this neckline, the next thing, I mean the last thing we need to do is to hem the lower part and also add our button and buttonholes. So what I did is I measured 3 inches from the neckline and then I added the first button, and then I measured another 3 inches to add the second button, another 3 inches for the third button, and that is it. Here is our final shirt. This is what it is looking like. You need to iron that neck part very well so that it lays flat the way that it is. This is it for this beautiful shirt. If you learned anything, please give it a like, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and share this video with friend or a soulmate that might need it. Thank you so much for watching. And again, if you're interested in a one-on-one class with me, I will leave my WhatsApp link in the description box below and also the comment section. Thank you.